Um, if you are here, you guys have probably heard the news that Jonathan Majors has been found guilty on 2 out of 4 counts in his domestic violence trial. Um, and this is something that if you've been following me on the channel, I've been covering this since March. So you can go through my channel and figure out all the ups and downs, left, right, twists and turns, and all of that. But for those of you that are new, that are just tuning in, I am your host, Emmanuel Eman Noisette. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to come on in and listen to this video here. But after months and of going back and forth with details, leak footage, evidence here, evidence there. And during the past week or so of the trial, the jury has finally come to the verdict. As I mentioned, you have 2 out of 4 charges that have found this actor as being guilty. So here's what we're going to do today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the verdict. I'm going to go over what it means. I'm going to go over the obviously you probably also heard what happened with Marvel, because that was the big thing that was lingering. And we'll talk about a couple other things like what are the next steps? What happens after this? We got the verdict. And as I mentioned here, Jonathan Majors was found guilty, but it's a little bit more complicated than the headlines would like you to believe, right? So as you see, Jonathan Majors guilty of harassment and assault. It says here that the 6-person jury found Majors not guilty on 1 count of intentional assault in the 3rd degree and 1 count of aggravated harassment in the 2nd degree. Now, I do think that it is important to at least understand what that means, because I know in today's society, everybody jumps on what you did wrong, but they don't want to talk about the things that he was found innocent about. Like, look, if E-Man doesn't rob a bank, y'all don't care, right? If I'm innocent of robbing a bank, you don't care. But if I'm found guilty of robbing somebody, then yeah, that's going to make the news. So I do want to take a moment just to explain what the jury found him innocent of. And that one of those charges was assault in the 3rd degree. So what that means is basically you intentionally physically injured another person. So basically, in this case, the jury did not believe that Jonathan Majors intentionally tried to physically injure Grace Jabari in this case. So that is something that let's see, I think his lawyer also mentioned something here. So his lawyer goes on to say that Majors still has faith in the process and looks forward to fully clearing his name. She said here that it is clear that the jury did not believe Grace Jabari's story of what happened in the SUV because they found Mr. Majors did not intentionally cause any injuries to her. She does go on to say, we are disappointed, however, that despite not believing Ms. Jabari, the jury nevertheless found that Mr. Majors was somehow reckless while she was attacking him. Now, we will go more into the other charge. So the assault that he does get found guilty in a different way, they're basically saying he did not do it intentionally. Now, if you've been following my channel, I need y'all to recognize something. This is something I've told y'all before, and I'm going to reiterate it for anyone that just does not know. Maybe you've never been in court. Maybe you've never served jury duty. At the end of the day, the jury has to go by the letter of the law. So that's why those little words matter. Intentional, reckless, those are very different words. And that's why you have different degrees for the same sort of charge, right? So we found out here that he was innocent of intentional assault in the 3rd degree. And then we also found out that he was innocent of aggravated harassment in the 2nd degree. So aggravated harassment is a crime that punishes individuals who engage in certain actions that are intended to annoy, threaten, or cause another person fear for their safety. This is according to New York law. So basically, in this case, the jury found that he was innocent of acting with the intent to harass a defendant, shove, kick another person, causing injury. Okay, so once again, the jury in this case found that he is not trying to, or that he did not intentionally try to harass Grace Jabari. He did not intentionally try to harm her at all. So that's why he is found innocent of those two charges. But once again, those are the things that he is innocent over, but we got to talk about the things that he actually is guilty of. Now, the things that he is guilty of, I will first one is going to be harassment. So it's harassment in the second degree. This is what the jury did find him guilty of. And what harassment in the second degree, and this is according to New York State, I believe, he or she strikes or shoves or kicks or otherwise subjects another person to physical contact or attempts to threaten to do the same. Um, according to like a lawyer here, and I think this kind of helps put it in a more context. This law firm says, according to this second degree harassment, it's certainly the least serious offense of crimes associated with and related to assault in the third degree. However, this is not actually a crime. In fact, it is a violation. Okay. So it says here, defining the second degree harassment, you can commit second degree harassment in ways that you would think were far from criminal or illegal. And just like in this case, making physical contact can be considered as second degree harassment. This law firm goes on to say, from the very general and vague definition above, you can easily see how this offense can be thrown at you where your conduct was reasonable or otherwise legitimate. For better or worse, clearly guilty or clearly innocent, many of these types of offenses, especially those involving domestic violence, result in immediate arrest where questions are only asked after the fact. And if we're lining this up, basically, this is exactly what happened. We saw just like how, even though Jonathan Majors was the one to call 911 to help his ex-girlfriend at the time, the police came and arrested him. And just like this law firm just said, they usually arrest somebody first and then they go try and sort things out later. Now, just for a little bit more context here, keep in mind that these charges are very similar to what Jonathan Majors reported and filed against Grace Jabari. Do not forget that he also alleged that she had attacked him. We saw pictures of his face being scratched, blood on his pillow, saying that basically the coat and all that was ripped up and things of that nature. He filed a police report. The police at the time did say that they had enough evidence or cause to arrest Grace Jabari as well. However, the DA who was taking over this case, they're the ones that are doing this on behalf of Grace Jabari. The DA was like, nah, we're not going to pursue nothing. So even though, in my non-legal, professional, non-professional opinion, this looked like two toxic people just having a spat. I'm not, and let me be very clear. I am not here to talk about anything that happened in 2022. I don't know what happened behind the closed doors, but with these people's relationship, I don't know none of that. I don't know. I wasn't even in the car. And from what I could tell, nobody was in the car except for the driver. And even the driver said he didn't see any fighting, but he heard things that sounded like it. So I don't know. All I can do is go off of whatever information that was made public, testimonies, etc. And from what I gathered as a layman, as a regular old citizen, I'm looking at two toxic people just going at it, doing things, and just having issues. I don't see one side being more, problematic than the other. Again, I don't know. Okay. So the fact that the charges were only on Jonathan Majors, and even though the police did say that they had cause to arrest Grace Jabari, I'm just put that into context. I'm just putting that into context. But I say that also because I want people to just consider, because I know it's so easy for us to judge. I know that, right? I know it's so easy for us to, place blame or to, be on the sidelines and point fingers and stuff. But just think about what I just read. Okay. Just think about what I just said in terms of what the letter of the law said for harassment. Okay. Any one of us could be getting charged for the same thing. How many people in here, just in here, have had a text message that you sent, have got into, I don't know, even play fighting with somebody, or cuss somebody out? That's second degree. That's second degree. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the bar is so low, and it's like if any one of us were celebrities, we could be found guilty over these type of, again, not even a crime, a violation. Okay, we could be found guilty for the violation as well. Oh man. Okay, but of course the major thing here, no pun intended, was the assault in the third degree. This is section 120 point zero zero. It says here the person recklessly causes physical injury to another person. That's all it is. It's recklessly endangering another person. Now let's go to the law firm. What does reckless third degree assault mean? Is it says here is no less serious and equally destructive in terms of career embarrassment and possible incarceration. It is very often charged along with intentional misdemeanor assault in the third degree. As a fallback theory in the event a judge or jury finds that an accused conduct is not intentional. And that is exactly what we just saw get transpired. Jonathan Majors, the DA said, hey, we're going to throw on those charges for intent, but just in case, we're going to put in the additional charge of recklessness, right? And of course, he was found innocent of intent. So the jury said, nah, he didn't intend to hurt her. He didn't intend to assault her. He didn't intend to harass her, but he was reckless. That's what they're finding him guilty of. It says, what is reckless assault and understanding the New York penal law? It says, for a misdemeanor complaint to proceed, there must be some form of physical injury. Whether the complainant was treated at the scene or received medical attention, and if the accuser suffered substantial pain. Now, this is one of the reasons why we saw Jonathan Majors' lawyer immediately go out. And this is like the second we, started getting information, we saw her immediately releasing information and videos of the ex, parting her hair, doing things, holding a phone, because the alleged injury was the fractured finger and a laceration on the back of her ear. We got a couple pictures here. So we see Jonathan Majors at the scene. This is after he called 911 to help her. This is her when the police arrived and they saw her there. You could see the injured finger right here. And you can also see the laceration behind the ear. So these are the quote unquote substantial injuries. Now again, I don't know how this works with the law, but it says here that they have to suffer substantial pain. Jonathan Majors, lawyer tried to demonstrate that there wasn't substantial pain, but for whatever reason, the jury still said no. What we saw was Jonathan Majors be reckless. Now, in case you're wondering what they meant by or what they saw as being reckless, I believe it kind of goes back to this video right here where he shoved her back into the vehicle. So here you could see them right there. He picks her up and puts her right back into the vehicle. I'll play it one more time. So they get out of the vehicle and he picks her up and shoves her back into the vehicle. So they are saying that right there is what was the reckless behavior. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, but he was running away and all of this. That's fine that he was running away. That's probably why they did not try him for intent. But that's not how the law works. They're saying, did you cause reckless, harm in any way? Now, here's something else I saw. And shout out to the folks on Twitter that found this. I don't know if y'all can see this. I'll try and read it for you if you can't read it. But this is basically a letter or jury instructions. This is jury instructions basically from the lawyer from the judge instructing the jury on how they have to view this case and how they have to rule. So when it comes to assault in the third degree, it says under our law, a person is guilty of assault in the third degree when that person recklessly causes physical injury to another person. It says here, physical injury means impairment of physical condition or substantial pain. It also says here, a person recklessly with respect to physical injury when that person engages in conduct which creates or contributes to a substantial, unjustifiable risk that physical injury to another person will occur. So I think that is probably where the jury might have gotten caught up. So here's the thing. We were really focused on what the defense was saying, because the defense was saying there was no substantial pain, because we saw Grace Shabari going out to the club. We saw her partying and all this stuff. And it didn't seem like she ever, my hand flinched. She never, with her ear. So this is where the defense kept saying, nah, ain't no real substantial injury there, right? But this is, according to this law firm, this might add a little bit more insight as to why the jury came to that, right? It says here, the prosecution must establish you behaved in a reckless manner when you caused the substantial pain or impairment of another person's physical condition. Under the law, you are considered reckless when you are aware of and consciously disregard a substantial and unjustifiable risk that a particular result will occur or that circumstance exists. The risk must be of such nature and degree that disregarding it constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of conduct that a reasonable person would observe in that situation. Now, the reason why I read all of that is because I think that is what the jury started to look at, the risk factor of it. Was it about the substantial pain? Well, that's what the defense was trying to say. But it seems as though, according to the law, if there was substantial risk involved and that risk could have been avoided, then that person is reckless in causing the injury. So in other words, let's go back to the video here. The question is, if the prosecution is saying this is where the injury happened, when he picked her up and threw her back into the car, if the prosecution is saying this is where it happened, then the question for the jury is, was this a risk that could have been avoided? In other words, was there any opportunity or moment where Jonathan Majors could have not picked her up, put her in the car, and not put his hands on her in that specific way? That is probably why they found him guilty. Because, yeah, while he's walking away, running away, sure, that's a great way to avoid risk. But the question is, what about when you pick him up right there? Did you have to do that? Now, according to Jonathan Majors, according to him, he did say that in his police report, that he picked her up and put her in the car to avoid, or basically to protect her. He was trying to protect her. He was saying like, yo, we're in the middle of traffic. Clearly, you see traffic's coming, so there's a green light. And according to him, she's acting hysterical and all that. So he was trying to save her. And again, that probably goes into why they didn't say you intentionally didn't try to cause harm. But if you did pick her up, it's kind of like they're seeing that as being reckless. They're seeing that as being reckless. And that's a slow motion of him picking her up. Um, and yeah, so maybe that's where she hit her head. Maybe that's where she hit her arm or her ear. I don't know. Um, but this is where it's at. This is where it's at. Um, so when it comes to these charges, again, he does have the possibility of facing 1 year in jail. Um, there's also the opportunity that he could get 6 months of probation. Again, we're talking about misdemeanors here. It's not like he's like a convicted felon or anything like that. At least I don't believe he is, but they are significant things because at this point we have to be honest with ourselves. Um, you know, the damage is done. Like just the fact that my man's names has been in the headlines and stuff, the damage is done. I don't think he has any prior convictions or anything, so there's probably a good chance that he'll just get a slap on the wrist. But you know, as far as his career and all that, I don't know. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second, but obviously, the next question up is, well, what is Marvel gonna do? And the point is, Marvel has dropped Jonathan Majors. The moment, I mean, my goodness, I didn't even have 2 seconds before I could even post the news. Marvel had decided to drop Jonathan Majors. The big outlets were quick to post this, like almost immediately. And let me just address something that I think a lot of people were thinking about was that, people were like, man, Marvel's bogus. How dare they drop him and stuff like that? Well, here's the thing. Let's go back to March of 2020, March 22nd or whatever it was. The moment that TMZ article came out, this man's PR company dropped him, his managers dropped him, the commercials dropped him, TV spots dropped him, movies dropped him. Everybody parted ways and dropped him, except for Marvel. Marvel could have. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying they could have dropped him that day. They could have dropped him. They could have moved on. They could have done whatever. But Marvel stuck with him all the way from March for 9 months. They didn't have to. They didn't have to, but they did. And while I understand some people might feel a certain type of way, like they did him bogus, we have to realize that we're not talking about the legality of this. We're not comparing one person's crime to another person's crime. This is more about the public relations. This is more about the PR behind everything. Because I know I was the one that brought this up. Y'all still got Jeremy Renner, who had allegations against him. You had Josh Brolin, who had stuff before you hired him, right? So y'all had some people that had troubled past, right? But the difference, unfortunately, is that Jonathan Majors has had bigger headlines than those other actors that flew under the radar. So, in other words, you have to think about it. Marvel made a business decision. One, they let the law make the decision for them. Yeah, they clearly was waiting. They clearly had that draft ready to go because the fact that they released that statement 2 seconds after the verdict came out, they was clearly ready for this outcome. But at the end of the day, if Marvel had not released him, right? You have to also consider all the potential ripple effects after. Who knows? And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying from a business perspective, if you kept him in, on the payroll and with these headlines, because again, everybody ain't reading everything. Everybody's not watching the videos. Everyone's not listening to the testimonies. Everyone isn't following the case detail by detail. But I guarantee you, they're gonna look at the headlines. Every single person is just gonna look at just this. All they gonna see is just this: guilty of harassment and assault. That is the headline that unfortunately is going to stick with Jonathan Majors for a long time. And because of that, Marvel does not want to have to go through every single interview Why y'all got someone that's beating on women on y'all payroll? How come you guys are supporting an abuser? Why are you guys allowing this to happen? Me too. Hashtag this, that. Like, as a business, it's easier for them to just cut loose of that, even though they gave him some time, rather than to stick with him. And again, from a business perspective, they have way more to lose by sticking with Jonathan Majors from a PR perspective than they do to gain. So while I'm not a big fan of it, I totally understand it. And I can say at least they held on for as long as they could from a PR perspective. So now that we know that they have officially dropped him, there are some more questions, of course. And that is like, how, what happens moving forward? Like, are we doing Kang or no? What are we doing? It says here Marvel Studios is out at, Jonathan Majors is out at Marvel Studios in a stunning career blow for the once rising actor. So far, he was supposed to lead Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. That was going to come out May 1st, 2026. However, no director is currently attached. Now, it does say here that Marvel has a couple options. They could recast the part, although it is not clear how many actors would be attracted to a role from which one actor was just so publicly fired. The other course is to redevelop its plans and refocus on a brand new villain. Now, let me just kind of comment on that first part. Once again, imagine, because I know a lot of people saying like, yo, let's recast, just recast. Now, hold on. Now, I'll put this out there too. I don't mind if they recast. I feel as though, I mean, come on now, y'all know me. I don't mind a recast, okay? But I don't mind that because one, the role is easy to recast. But I also understand, better yet, I'd even throw this out there because I know some people was mentioning this. Let's get Denzel Washington and John David Washington. So you could have Denzel be the old Kang and be John David be the young Kang, and then just give variations in between. Listen, I would not be opposed to this. Okay, I'm just saying, I would, because first of all, you're gonna give Denzel Washington a one and done, not a long-term commitment, a nice little role. Let this man act, give his son something. I'll pay for that. I would pay for that. Would y'all? I don't know. I would pay for that. But I do think that the article brings up a good point about an actor being attracted to some role that was so publicly fired. Because if you think about it, what do you think? Let's say, I know some of y'all want John Boyega, Damson Idris, whatever. Fill in the gap, whatever. What do y'all think the first question is going to be to that new actor that comes in? That fresh new actor that becomes Kang, what do y'all think they're going to ask them? So, how does it feel to replace a convicted felon? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody out there is gonna ask a crazy question and apply some pressure to that actor that they don't need. Now, again, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to the recast. I'm just saying Marvel is probably gonna be like, we don't even want to deal with that at all. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So, I don't know if I should say this or not. How many people we got in here? 740. Shout out to y'all, by the way. All right, I'll say it, but I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to get in trouble. I will just say that one of y'all favorite recast options does not want to have the role. I know that's not specific. I think that if you follow me long enough, you'll know who I might be talking about. And I can't say the name because it would violate what they told me. So I'll keep that anonymous. But yeah, they're not interested. So that sucks, but it is what it is. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised if other actors also share in the same hesitation that one of y'all favorite options would have wanted. So I'll leave that. E-Man didn't say nobody. I didn't say no name. So nah. Okay. Anyway, it says here, Oh yeah, and then of course they could pivot to a new villain. We'll talk about that in a second. It says though, Kang Dynasty, Avengers Kang Dynasty is now being referred to as Avengers 5. And that is according to sources to the Hollywood Reporter. And it also said that the studio had months to plan for this for such an eventuality. So, there is a possibility here that now we're not going to have Avengers Kang Dynasty anymore, if that is true. If they're now calling it Avengers 5, then that means that the other rumor that was out is that it could be Secret Wars Part 1 and then Secret Wars Part 2. We did talk about this last time, which is basically Michael Waldron, the same guy that wrote the Loki series. They just hired him to do Avengers 5, and he was also writing Avengers Secret Wars. So if you're going to have the Secret Wars writer onto Avengers 5, you might just go ahead and break them up into 2 movies. And it'll be the same thing that we got with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame in terms of how one complements the other. So that could be the new case of how this is going to go moving forward. But what are we going to do with Kang? The other question, of course, is like, do we just move on to another villain? Do we move on? Now, I've said this before. I don't really want them to move on from Kang because honestly, it's going to feel like a waste of time. It's going to feel as though we went through a whole boo-boo phase of phase 4. It had a couple hits here and there, but overall, phase 4 was a disappointment. I mean, even the hardcore Marvel fans can't deny that. But I'm just saying, you mean to tell me that the man that created Loki, spoilers, by the way, but the man who created the TVA is now going to be defeated by the TVA? What? But then again, Marvel did make, this same man get defeated by some super ants. In my opinion, I just don't like that writing, if that's the case, if that's how it goes down. I'd rather see the man who supposedly, because some of y'all forgot. I think some of y'all forgot. Some of y'all forgot when we saw that little teaser trailer of Kang and Ant-Man 3, when this man was like, you an Avenger? Are you the one with the hammer? Didn't I kill you before? We forgot about the man who waxed the Avengers in multiple timelines. I still want to see that Kang. That's all I'm saying. I still want to see that guy. Where's that guy at? But if we just gonna write it off, I feel like that's a waste of our time. But I'm not gonna be mad if y'all bring in Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Doom, for you comic fans, I know y'all already know, he is intricately tied to Secret Wars. I just would not want it to be rushed because I was hoping that after, Avengers or whatever, we had some time to introduce Doom and to let Doom cook. That's what I was hoping for. But it seems like Marvel's going to be flexible and they just going to be like, all right, forget it, man. Like, maybe it's time. Maybe they just going to do it. I don't know. I am curious though. What do y'all think? And let me know in the comments. Do you think that Marvel should recast and keep that story going with Kang? Or do you think it's just next villain up? Should they just go to the next villain and keep it going? Whatever you think, please let me know in the comments. I know I'm going to address this other question here. What about Ezra Miller? Now, if you're new to my channel, because I saw somebody out there being stupid and reckless on the Twitters, and somebody was like, oh, E-Man is so biased. He didn't give any coverage to Ezra Miller the way that he's covering Jonathan Majors. I can't believe this guy. Go on to YouTube, type in E-Man's movie reviews and Ezra Miller, and go find them 23 and a half videos that I have covered Ezra Miller extensively about, and try again. Okay, first of all, try again. But the reason why we bring that up is because some people are saying it's a double standard. Some people are saying like, yo, WB, how the hell you gonna keep this damn terrorist, domestic terrorist, And Marvel, you over here dropping Jonathan Majors. What's up with that, man? Now listen, I've been on the record by I was putting pressure on WB's neck for how they handled Ezra Miller. Nothing that WB did I thought was okay. They was quiet with Ezra Miller. They never recast when they had the opportunity to. And they kept promoting Ezra Miller and covering with the whole mental health. Meanwhile, Hawaii got a whole wanted poster for Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller out there assaulted 2 women, stealing, putting allegedly kids in danger, running from the law. Remember that? Speed Force, you can't catch me. Y'all remember that? But WB held on to that boy. And yes, I can call him a boy because, newsflash, in case y'all didn't know, Ezra decided to change his pronouns. He's back to he and him. Ha-ha. But they decided to keep that boy for reasons. So, let me just say, I do not believe that 2 wrongs make a right. I do not believe that if WB was wrong for holding on to Ezra Miller, that therefore Marvel should also be wrong and hold on to Jonathan Majors. I felt like both of them, if found guilty, because that was my whole thing. If you're found guilty, just recast, move on. I'm not saying you got to throw people under the bus. I'm not saying you got to drag people. I'm just saying from a business perspective, you can back off, recast, and move on. That's it. So no, I do not find Marvel as like being terrible like this, because Ezra was never in a good position, and I still say WB was dead wrong in how they handled and kept him and covered him for over a year as he terrorized not only domestic but internationally. What else we got? Magazine Dreams. That was another movie that Jonathan Majors had that was going to come out. For those of y'all that didn't know, Magazine Dreams was Jonathan Majors' new movie in terms of this was going to showcase him as a bodybuilder that was, let's just say, going through a lot of mental things. And this bodybuilder was physically violent and abusive. And obviously, given what just happened with this verdict, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Jonathan Majors' movie, it was supposed to come out this year because while it played in Sundance, there was a lot of talk that it had Oscar, it had award potential. A lot of people said, yo, Jonathan Majors did his thing in that movie. I still kind of want to see it, but I would not be surprised if Disney pulls off a WB move and they just write that off. Write it off as a tax write-off. I would not be surprised if that thing never sees the light of day. Now, they could sell it. I don't know what studio would want to buy it. You know what? I take that back. Tubi would buy it. Sell it to Tubi. Tubi just bought Batman. They just bought half of like WB's content. Tubi out here adulting. Yo, I don't know if Disney listening. Tubi be buying. Go on to sell that Magazine Dreams to Tubi. I'm just saying, I'd watch it. Mess around and go watch it. I don't know. Would y'all? So that's that. And the final question, I think, is what's next for Majors? And here's the thing. According to, like I said, with his lawyer, they are going to continue to fight this, which good. Like, I hope that you do that, she said here that she was still trying to clear his name and all of that. And that's good. But to be honest with you, I don't think there's much more that can happen at this point. The damage is done. The damage is done. The damage had been getting done all this time. Because we're talking about the court of public opinion. We're talking about the court on papers, and we're talking about headlines. Now, I think because this trial in this case was so high profile, I would like to believe that the public, because we saw 2 toxic people going at it, I would hope that the public would be like, man, listen, I seen a baby mama and her baby daddy going at it on the street corner this morning. Like, that ain't nothing new, like, or man, I got into it with my baby mama and my baby daddy this morning, So I don't know if there's gonna be like Harvey Weinstein level of vitriol against Jonathan Majors or not. I don't think people will feel that way, but unfortunately, when you type in Jonathan Majors, all you gonna see is guilty, guilty, guilty. That's the unfortunate thing. So what does he do next? If I were Jonathan Majors, and I know there's a little bit of hindsight in this, I know that, I would have probably talked to Marvel first. I would have said, yo, Marvel, if I am found guilty, let me drop out first. Let me drop out. I'll do it so you don't have to, because y'all was going to do it anyway. But since they already dropped them, it's too late for that. I think the next step that could happen is, as his lawyer said, go ahead and appeal it or whatever, just so that maybe on paper you can get your name clear. Again, it's a violation. This man ain't going upstate to the penitentiary and nothing. It's not looking like that anyway. But you definitely got to hire a new PR team. And I would say this, even though I know it don't work for a lot of people that, have a certain complexion, I would say like, yo, make a public statement. And I'm saying like on video, not a written statement, but like you go up there on video somewhere. Listen, TMZ will find you. Okay. You do a public video where you say, not that you admit any guilt, but you would just say something like, look, I'm very disappointed in the verdict. But at the same time, I stand by my innocence. I'm not a perfect man. I know that I've had issues in the past and I am still on the road to healing. I am going into rehab. You know how much people love celebrities in rehab. Ezra Miller went to rehab. Apparently that was good enough for WB. Another story. But if I'm Jonathan Majors, yo, I'm trying to do better. I'm going to rehab. I'm getting myself together. And if I were Jonathan Majors or on his team, I would tell him, you got to take a break. You got to take a break out the public eye. Luckily for him, he's not on social media. Luckily. So the general public, we got a short attention span. We're not going to talk about you if we don't see you. Okay. Y'all talking about Nate Parker anymore? Exactly. So I would say stay out the limelight for a minute. Just back off. Let people forget. Maybe in 2026 or so, go back and do a small movie. And if I have to be brutally honest, I don't know if mainstream Hollywood is going to readily accept you like that again, because one thing nobody can deny is this brother is immensely talented as an actor. I would go do a Broadway show. I would go do, hit up Tyler Perry. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe you do just a little side thing, and then little by little, you could build yourself back up. Because again, I don't think everyone's ready to throw him away. I know some might, but I don't think everybody is. But I think if you say you're going to get help, and here's another key. Don't leave this channel yet. Don't leave yet. Here's another key. Y'all came to the right channel. Here's one more thing. You better treat Megan Good like the queen she is. You better go 2 years with treating that woman like gold, platinum, diamond. Because I'm telling you right now, if anything go wrong with Megan Good and you. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.